Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to talk about how to use Excel's regression add-on tool to perform regression analysis in Excel. So in the last video, we talked about using a scatter plot and regression equation to establish the regression model in Excel. But this would only work when I have only one independent variable and one dependent variable in the model. In other words, because scatter plots are two-dimensional, it only can show relationship between two variables. Okay, so the difference that I have in my data file is that first of all, we have a lot more data points. So last time we only had 10 data points, but in this new data file, I have, I think, 300 data points. The second and major difference that we have is that we have two independent variables in this data file, right? So previously we only had miles and time. Miles was our only independent variable and time was our dependent variable, right? And because there was only one independent variable, one dependent variable, we were trying to establish a relationship between miles and time, and only doing it through a scatter plot would have worked. However, when we have two independent variables and we are interested in establishing a relationship between time and both of these independent variables, right? So we want to have a regression model where time could be predicted using the delivery time could be predicted using the number of miles that the person is traveling and the number of deliveries that the person is doing. So in this case, again, we have two independent variables, which is why we cannot use the scatter plot. We have to use the regression tool that Excel provides us. All right, so to begin, what we could do is go to data. And then here you would find data analysis. Okay, so you should be able to find data analysis if you have added this Excel add-in in your Excel. And I provided on Canvas an illustration on how to do that. So just follow those steps. So you should have the data analysis tab right here. So you want to click there, and then you can find regression. So you just you should be able to find regression in this pop-up menu. So you click on regression and click OK. Okay. So sorry, this should all come because I did it once. Which is why it comes out with these numbers, but to you it should just come like nothing is there, right? So now once this pop-up is there, what you want to do is so Excel is asking what's your input. So you have to specify what's your dependent variable, which is the input wide range, remember? So dependent variables are also called wide. So which is why in here you have to provide the dependent variable range, all the data for time in this case, right? And then you also have to provide the input X range. In this case, that would be both miles and deliveries, right? So let's go. So input Y range, you want to click here and then select everything, okay? So select everything under time. So D1 to D301. All right. And then you go to input X range. And now you have to select both B column and C column for 301 rows. So you want to select both of them. And in this case, you can also drag it down. However, you could also use a shortcut. So you select both of these columns. And then you have to press Control, Shift, and the down arrow key all together. Control, Shift, down arrow. You press that if you're using Windows. If you're using Mac, you want to press Command, Shift, and down arrow. Okay, so I'm going to press Control, Shift, down arrow because I'm using Windows right now. And there you go. So Excel selects everything for you. Okay, you could have also dragged it down just like you did for the dependent variable case or Y case. Okay, there you go. So now Excel knows that in your regression model, dependent variable is time and independent variables are miles and deliveries, both of them. Okay. Now here you see that there is something called labels, and if it's not clicked at this moment, you want to click it. So the thing is, while selecting this data, we also selected the labels, right? So in this case, for example, you see you have selected miles and deliveries, right? In your X range, so you have selected the labels. Also in the Y range, you have selected T1, which basically has the label, which is time. So because you have selected the labels, you need to let Excel know that there is the first row is label. Okay? So you have to click labels here. So another way of doing this would be you don't select D1 and you start from D2, as well as you start from B2 instead of B1. So in that case, you don't select your first row, which has the labels. And in that case, you have to keep this unchecked, keep the labels unchecked. So you cannot select. So basically it depends on what you do. If you're selecting the labels in your data here, then you click on labels. If you don't select the labels in here, do not click on labels. Okay. All right. And then, so output options, you could select new worksheet, which means that it will create a new worksheet right here, where they will show you the output. You could also just select output range and then just give here like any place that you want to see your data. So it's going to be on the same Excel sheet, excuse me. But let's say I want to print my output here. So you could just provide F2. So anywhere which is not occupied currently. All right. So so far we're just going to do this much and then click OK. So here you go. So there is your summary output of the regression. And it's a lot more than just doing the scatter plot. And eventually in this class, we will talk about most of these things. But just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk about two things which we already observed in the previous class. The first one is R squared. So you see my R squared is written right here. And this is what my R squared is. I'm just going to highlight that. Which means that 81. So R square is 0.8173. So which means that 81.73% of the variability of the data can be explained by the linear regression. All right. So remember last time we got R square of 0.67 and this time we got an R square of 0.81. So my R square increased when I included deliveries in the model. Okay, so which means that actually including deliveries in the model makes the model better. Okay, all right. And the next thing that we also looked at the regression equation in the last class, which we then used to predict new unknown y's or dependent variables in the model, right? So in this case, also we can write down the regression equation. So the coefficients are right here. So you want to use these coefficients to write down the regression equation. So it's not written down as it was last time, but we can write it down using these coefficients. So I'm going to again highlight this and then just going to write down the regression equation. So my regression equation is, you can write y hat or estimated time or just time is equal to, so that is a y, right? So that's my y. Equals to, so you start with intercept 0.12733. You can just choose whatever decimal point you want to include. Plus 0. So now I'm gonna do this coefficient. So this is my, so now this is my B0, this is my B1, and this is my B2, right? So I'm just gonna write in that order, 0.06718 multiplied by miles plus 0.6899 multiplied by deliveries. Okay, so this is my new regression equation, which means that if you want to predict, let's say, if I ask you what is the estimated delivery time when the delivery, when the person has to travel, let's say 100 miles and perform 10 deliveries. Right? So if I ask you this question, you should be able to do this. So what should the time? I'm just gonna put, instead of in this miles, I'm gonna put 100, and in this deliveries, I'm gonna plug in 10. So that's it, right? So my time is gonna be equals to, so again, I'm gonna first write down my B0, so that is B0, B1, B2. So my B0 is 0.12733, B1 is 0.06718, and B2 is 0.6899. Okay? And my estimated time is going to be equals to B0 plus B1 multiplied by miles, which is 100. I'm going to say 100 plus B2 multiplied by 10, which is 10 deliveries. So that's going to be just 10. Okay, so my estimated time for this delivery would be 13.744 hours based on my equation. Okay, so that's about it. The basics of multiple linear regression. And then next, so we will learn to interpret everything else in this model, okay, in the rest of the regression portion of